All right, you guys. The little bubble will load in a little bit. All right, there it goes. So today for our math lesson, we are going to take a break from decomposing fractions, and we are going to work with adding and subtracting fractions on a number line. All right, so in my window here, which you can see, in this first problem, right, the directions say in 1 and 2, write the equation shown on the number line. So they are showing us an equation with these number lines and these fractions. So really quick, what do the colors green and red make you think of? All right, they might make you think of Christmas, but for me, when I see these, it makes me think of a stoplight. All right, now when a stoplight is green, what does that mean? What does our car do when the stoplight is green? It goes forward. Okay, so on number 1 here on this number line, we have these 2 green arrows that are going forward, right? So what operation do we think that is? Would that be adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing? If you said adding, you're correct, right? These green arrows and the direction that they're pointing mean that we are adding here. So we are going to have to write an addition equation for this number line. Okay, so let's start with that one. All right, so I'm going to change my circle here. It's going to take a little bit of time to load, but I want you to watch the circle. Okay, so I'm going to redraw this number line because I didn't have drawing tools for the computer, and it's just easier for me to do it on here. So I have a number line, starts at 0, and it ends at 1, okay? And I noticed that in that problem, my denominator of the fractions were 5, or the denominator was 5. So that tells me, the denominator tells me how many parts I need to have in my number line. So I need to have 5 parts in my number line, okay? So let me do that. All right, so I have 5 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. All right, now the first arrow that they gave us, pretend it's green, okay? The first arrow that they had, it started at 0 and it went to this fraction right here. What fraction is that, or would that be? We know the denominator is 5. So if this is the first line on our number line, what is the fraction? Good, 1/5. Okay, so they went from 0 to 1/5. So our equation that we're going to need to write is not going to start at 0. It's actually going to start with 1/5. So let me write that down here because we need to write an equation. Oops, sorry, the glare is there, right? It's 1/5. Okay, so that was that first arrow. And then they had a second arrow that started at 1/5, and it went all the way over here to this arrow, or to this spot on our number line. Okay, so how many spaces did it move? How many spaces did we go from that arrow? We started here at 1/5 and we went, I'll do a different color here to help us out. We went 1, 2. Okay, we went 2 spaces, and this point on the number line is 3/5. Okay, so what equation could we write? All right, we know that they moved how many spaces here? They got to 1/5 and they moved how many spaces? 1, 2. So they added how many spaces to the 1/5? How many did they add to the 1/5? This is where we started, all right? And we moved 1, 2. So good. We added 2/5, okay? Because that's how many spaces we went. We went 2 more spaces, and our denominator still stays the same. So 1/5 plus 2/5, well, that's how we can kind of check to see if we're correct with this part. 1/5 plus 2/5, what does that give us? That gives us 3/5, and that's where we ended, right? That's where those 2 arrows ended on that number line. So this is the equation that we would write, the answer that they were looking for. Okay, so let's try the second one. All right, so that second number line, it had a red arrow and it was going in the opposite direction. Now, I'm going back to why the red and green make me think of a stoplight. Green means go, right, to go forward, and red, well, I guess red for a stoplight means to stop, you don't go forward. But in this case, for the red arrow, the direction changes. It's the opposite way. So if the green arrows mean adding and going forward, what do you think the red arrows that point the opposite direction mean? To go backwards, right? Or to subtract. So let's try that second number line. All right, so this one is different. So we're going to start at 0. It ends at 1. But our denominator for the fractions that we have for that second number line was 6. You can kind of see it there in the background behind my big circle. So let me make sure I have 6 equal parts, or 6 parts. Okay, I have 6 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so 6 parts. All right, now they have 1 6, 2 6, 3 6, 4 6, 5 6, and then we have our whole, right? Or our whole could be written as 6 over 6. Okay, so the arrow that they have is red and it goes the opposite direction, and it starts here and it ends on the 3 6. So if we said that the red arrow, pretend this is red, that the red arrow means you're going backwards and you're subtracting, our equation is going to be a subtraction equation. So where did the arrow start? What point on the number line? Where did it start at? It started at 5 6, right? So I'm going to start my equation with 5 6. Okay? That's where we started, or that arrow started on the number line. It's starting right here at 5 6, and it goes backwards. All right? It goes backwards. And we've already said that this direction, the opposite direction, means to go, or it means to subtract. So how many spaces did they go? Use a different color. So if we started at 5 6 and they went from here all the way to 3 6, how many spaces did they go? Or how many spaces did they go backwards? Well, from 5 6 to 4 6, that's 1. And then from 4 6 to 3 6, that's 2. Okay, so one way of figuring it out is drawing the number line and actually drawing out those spaces that you move. So we went backwards 2 spaces. So our equation is going to look like this. 5 6 minus, how many spaces did they move backwards? 2, and then we know our denominator is 6, so that's what it's going to stay. Okay, so 5 6 minus 2 6 equals, it should equal 3 6, where they ended. So 5 minus 2, that gives me 3 6. Okay, now, is this fraction in its simplest form? Some of you may know right off the bat, some of you may not know. If you don't know, how do we check to know if a fraction is in its simplest form? That's where we need to do our greatest common factor, right? We do the t-charts, where we take each number, 3, 6, and we write out the factors for each one. So 3, I know there's 1 and 3. For 6, there's 1 and 6, 2 and 3, and that's pretty much it. And now I circled the factors that they have in common. Well, they have 1 and they have 3. So the greater one is 3. So I'm going to divide 3 6 by 3. 3 divided by 3, 6 divided by 3. So this fraction was not in its simplest form. So actually, 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 6 divided by 3 is 2. So the simplest form of that fraction is 1/2. So on your assignment, make sure that you're reading the directions to see if it asks for the answers in its simplest form, because some of them might ask for that. Okay, now I want to show you on Braining Camp how you can do these number lines with those arrows, and it makes it super easy, okay? Makes it super easy for your assignment for today. Okay, so let's try out this problem here, all right? We have a word problem with fractions, and I'm gonna show you on Braining Camp how I can use it to solve this problem, okay? So it says, Mary rides her bike 2/10 of a mile to pick up her friend Marcy for soccer practice, okay? So Mary's house is right here, and she goes to Marcy's house, and it tells us that she went 2/10 of a mile. That's what they told us in that first sentence. Together, they ride 5/10 of a mile to the soccer field. And here they are right here, Marcy and Mary, and they're riding to the soccer field. And from Marcy's house to the soccer field is 5/10 of a mile. They want to know, what is the distance from Mary's house to the soccer field? Okay, so from Mary's house to the soccer field. We know how far it is to go from Marcy's house to the soccer field, but we need to figure out from Mary's. Okay, so, and then this little boy is giving us a hint right here, add to find the total distance. Okay, so let's use Braining Camp to do that. Okay, so we're over here on Braining Camp, all right? Now, I have the number line set with a denominator of 10 because that's what we had on that problem, okay? So you can change this. If you haven't done the number line on Braining Camp, you can change this to however many parts that you need. So if you have a denominator of 8, you would change this to 8. But I'm going to move it back to 10. So you see, my number line starts at 0, and it ends at 1, okay, or 1 whole, which would be 10, whoops, over 10, okay? Good. So let's work this out. Okay, so the problem told us that Mary went from her house, so let's call Mary's house 0, okay? I'm going to put MH for Mary's house, okay? MH for Mary's house, and that's at 0. And it told us that from her house, she went to Marcy's house, and Marcy's house was right here at the 2/10, okay? She rode 2/10 of a mile to go to Marcy's house. So how many spaces did they go, or how many parts of our number line did they go? 2/10, right? It's kind of showing us there. We have our green arrow. It means it's going forward. So we added, right? So you could say that for our equation, we're starting here at the 2/10, right? Mary went from her house to Marcy's. So let's write that up here. 2 over 10, okay? 2/10. And then it says from Marcy's house, both of them, so I'm going to drag another little arrow from over here. From Marcy's house, they went, whoops. Oh, it's not working. Why not? Okay, there you go. So from Marcy's house, they went all the way to the soccer field, which was 5/10, right? Or to go from Marcy's house to the soccer field was 5/10 of a mile. All right, so you see how my arrow changes when I drag it out? So if I go from 2/10 to nowhere, it's 0 over 10. I didn't move any spaces. But if I go from 2/10 to 3/10, what does that little circle say up at the top? It says 1/10. Good. So in that problem, it said from Marcy's house to the soccer field was 5/10. So I'm going to keep dragging this arrow until it says 5/10. So I'm at 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, and then 5/10. Good. So we started at 2/10, and then they rode together 5/10. So let me grab my marker here. So we know because of the color of the arrows and the direction they're going that we are adding. So 2/10 plus, what did it say they went to go from Marcy's house to the soccer field? They went 5/10. So 2/10 plus 5/10 gives us what? And of course, it's even easier because Braining Camp helps you out and you see it right there. So 2/10 plus 5/10 equals 7/10. Okay, so it's pretty simple. All right, that's what you're going to be working on today in your assignment. So let's take a look really quick. All right, so when you go to Braining Camp, you go to your portal. All right, when you go to your portal, you click on Braining Camp, there's going to be a little box that says Numberline, and you'll have to click on that. But I also put the link in Schoology for you. Okay, so let's take a look at your assignment. Hold on, guys. Something happened with my bubble here and I can't see it. There we go. Okay. So I gave you some helpful tips throughout. I know I'm not in class with you today, but hopefully it'll help you out, and definitely use Braining Camp, okay, to try and help you. So it says in 5 and 6, write the equation shown by each number line. So just like what we did for the guided practice, okay? So for this, really pay attention to the direction of the arrows and as well as the color, and use Braining Camp to help you out if you want to. There are a few word problems, all right? I tried to help you out with them. Try the best that you can. I know I'm not there or not here in class to answer your questions, but most of this should be pretty easy. I don't think you should have too much trouble trying to figure them out, especially with the little tips that I put there. All right. So make sure you pay attention to those. You can see I typed some stuff here and here. Okay. So not too bad, not too many problems that you have to do. All right. For this one, use the line tool to draw out the number line for this problem. So the line tool, I'm talking about this one. When you click here on line, and you can draw out your number line right there. I can change the color. If I want it red, I can make it red, and I can make it thicker. Okay, so I can use the line tool, or y'all can use the line tool to help draw out your number line for this problem. Okay, give it your best shot, guys. I know you can.